On September 30, 2006, Charleston County, South Carolina, was shaken by one of its most brutal family murders. Micheal Anthony Simmons, a 41-year-old man with a long history of violence and mental instability, shot and killed his wife, 39-year-old Detra Rainey, and her 4 children, William Lee Rainey, 16, Hakeem Rainey, 13, Malachi Robinson, 8, and Seminia Robinson, 6. The killings, carried out inside the family's North Charleston mobile home, left an entire community devastated and raised complex questions about crime, punishment, and mental health. According to police reports, the shootings occurred in the early morning hours between 3 a.m. and 5:45 a.m. Neighbors later recalled seeing Simmons sitting on his porch, restless and fidgety, throughout the day. The crime came to light only after Simmons invited a woman into his home for a cigarette. She discovered the bodies and ran to alert authorities. When police arrived, Simmons was arrested while still in possession of the handgun used in the murders. The killings stood out even in 2006, a year already marked by record levels of homicide in the Tri-County area. Authorities described the murders as among the most heinous in recent history, sparking widespread outrage and grief. Simmons's violent tendencies were well documented long before the murders. His criminal record, dating back to 1984, included assault, armed robbery, burglary, and attempted murder. In 1987, he and an accomplice brutally beat and robbed a disabled cab driver, an attack so vicious that Simmons was sentenced to 16 years in prison. While incarcerated, he frequently violated prison rules, receiving infractions for contraband and disobedience, reportedly hallucinations. Later psychiatric evaluations described him as mildly mentally retarded, with a history of auditory and visual hallucinations. He was admitted to a mental hospital in 1987, though doctors at the time considered him competent to stand trial. Despite his past, Simmons and Detra Rainey had a long and complicated relationship. Childhood sweethearts who grew up in the same neighborhood, they reunited after Simmons's release from prison in 2004. By 2005, they had married in a church ceremony where all of Rainey's children participated. Friends and relatives described the marriage as initially happy, though Simmons's history of volatility remained a source of concern. Initially, Simmons faced 5 counts of murder and the possibility of the death penalty. However, his case took an unexpected turn when his mental health began to decline rapidly after his arrest. By 2008, brain scans revealed that Simmons had suffered a stroke while in jail, leaving him with symptoms of dementia. Multiple psychiatric evaluations found him to be profoundly confused, unable to comprehend the charges against him, and incapable of assisting in his own defense. On June 20, 2008, Circuit Judge Christy Harrington ruled that Simmons was mentally unfit to stand trial. This decision meant Simmons would not face a jury, but instead be confined indefinitely in a secure state mental hospital. The ruling sparked outrage among the victims' family members. Many believed Simmons was feigning mental illness to avoid accountability. Relatives described him as manipulative and violent, insisting that his condition was an act. The family's frustration was echoed by prosecutors, who remained skeptical of his sudden cognitive decline. Still, medical evidence convinced the court that Simmons could not stand trial. For the surviving family, the loss was unbearable. Detra Rainey's relatives spoke openly about the trauma, with some struggling to sleep and others seeking counseling. Her son, Kristen Rainey, who was away at school when the murders occurred, later expressed anger and disappointment at the court's ruling, saying, "If you do something like he did, I don't care what happens after. You should still be held responsible. The case of Michael Anthony Simmons remains a haunting example of the intersection between violent crime and mental illness. It exposed deep divisions between medical evaluations and public perception, leaving many to question whether justice was truly served. For the families of the victims, no legal decision could erase the devastation of losing a mother and 4 children in such a violent and senseless